How is it going, everybody? You're watching Then About Tech, and Apple has finally released iOS 14.6. And in this video, I'm going to explain you why you should update to iOS 14.6 right now. It's super important that you do so. So, iOS 14.6 is actually the update we were all waiting for. As you probably know, iOS 14.5 and 0.5.1 were full of bugs, full of issues, and we were all really hoping for a new update that actually would fix all of that and would just resolve all of those issues. And those issues had to do with performance, with battery, with unexpected shutdowns, features that simply didn't work, like the tracking feature, and many other things. And iOS 14.6 actually came to solve all of that, and is actually a little bit more than we expected. All right, so without further ado, let's get started and let me explain why you should update to iOS 14.6. Let's go. Okay, so first things first, I have to talk about compatibility. What devices are actually compatible with iOS 14.6? And those are the same ones that were compatible with iOS 14, as you can imagine. So I'm gonna put a list on the screen right now, and you'll see that's actually a pretty long list, going all the way from the iPhones SE, so iPhone SE, SE2, and the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, all the way up to the newest iPhone 12 lineup, all right? And even the iPod Touch 7th generation, if someone actually uses that. So, as you guys can see, pretty long list, extremely compatible. So, if you haven't updated already, all you gotta do is go to your settings and then go to General, Software Update, and wait for that screen to load, and then you'll see iOS 14.6. or if you don't see, like on my iPhone, like on my example, that's because you were already updated to iOS 14.6. You're already on this latest version, so you don't need to do anything. You're good. All right, now let me explain you why you should. Let me explain you why this is very important. And another thing that's important is how I actually came up with this video. So first, let me show you that I have both those iPhones running iOS 14.6, so an iPhone 8 and an iPhone 12 Pro Max, so very different devices. One is brand new, one is a few years older, and I always do that. I always test a new version on different devices to actually give you my feedback, not only on the cutting edge, on the flagship model, but on an average basis, let's say. And not only that, so I have been doing this for the previous 24 hours pretty much ever since Apple released iOS 14.6, and also I've done a lot of researching, a lot of studying, a lot of talking with other fellow YouTubers and a lot of my fans on Instagram. So I gathered quite a lot of information about this subject to bring you this video, right? So it's not going to be extremely scientific or anything like that. It's going to be based on my experience, my observation, and the experience of actually quite a lot of other users. So first reason why you should update is because of performance. iOS 14.6 improved the performance of your iPhone in so many ways that is actually very nice, especially on older iPhones. You can definitely tell on older iPhones like the 6s, 7, and even the iPhone 8 that the iPhone is just snappier, faster, it's just more responsive as a whole. Even my 12 Pro Max, I could tell just a bit. It's not going to be a huge deal because the phone is pretty new, but you can tell that it's faster, it's snappier, and it's just worth it, you know, updating for performance, just for performance. And there's a lot more. All right, so second thing that's very important has to do with tracking, the tracking feature. You're probably familiar with that. A lot of people talked about it, especially because it was a pretty big deal, this new feature that was actually introduced in iOS 14.5 and 0.5.1, but it pretty much didn't work for most users like myself. And I actually have a full video on the tracking feature, on new features in iOS 14.5, including the tracking feature. I put a card right here if you want to know more about this new security and privacy feature that's actually very good. And the good news is that in iOS 14.6, it works. It's just enabled on pretty much all iPhones. I haven't seen a person that has this feature still disabled, because as I said, it was disabled before, even though it was introduced, the feature was working, but it wasn't working. Now it is fully working. So unless you were a kid and you are a minor, or your iPhone belongs to an education institute or something like that, maybe it won't work on that specific case, but for everybody else, it will work. Reason number 3 to update would be battery. So many users had problems with battery in iOS 14.5 and 0.5.1. It's incredible. And we actually have 2 groups of problems regarding battery. Either the battery life itself, so your battery would die faster after updating to iOS 14.5. It just wouldn't last what it used to last, so you'd have a crappy battery life. Or battery health. Okay, that's a different thing. So regarding battery life, I noticed that it is a little bit better in iOS 14.6. Not noticeably better, so much better, but it's pretty much the same or a bit better. You can squeeze a few minutes more after updating. And talking about battery life itself, and I'm talking about maximum capacity right here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have other videos on the channel regarding battery life. So if you wanna understand this whole thing, I'll put a card right here for that subject. So many users had problem with battery health, so when they actually updated, the battery health just dropped incredibly. Or if they had the iPhone 11, which was supposed to get a bump in battery health, they just didn't get it, so it was a mess. Now in iOS 14.6, we're getting what we expect. So battery health is probably going to be unchanged after you update, or if it drops, that's normal. After every major update, we have a calculation on battery health, and it may go down, but it won't affect your battery life. It's just a number. They're just recalculating the number on maximum capacity. It won't be bad for a battery updating to iOS 14.6 in any way. So in the short run regarding battery life, and in the long run because of battery health. So it won't be bad for you. It's okay, it's safe to update. And then we had 2 major issues with iOS 14.5 and 0.5.1, which had to do with bugs. One of them were actually unexpected shutdowns. A lot of people were just using their iPhone as they would, and then the iPhone would just shut off completely, or maybe reboot automatically, like turn off and turn back on for no apparent reason. And that was just a bug. That never happened again after updating to iOS 14.6. You will not have that. And last but not least, general bugs. iOS 14.5 had so many bugs just by using the phone or using some applications like WhatsApp and Instagram. Applications would just crash or not work or malfunction. It was really bad. It was full of bugs actually. And after the update, those bugs were fixed, both because the apps themselves just updated and actually resolved those problems, and because iOS 14.6 is a much more general, safer and more stable update. All right, so that's pretty much it. That's the whole idea I wanted to give you on why iOS 14.6 is a good update. It's a better update, much more stable, much safer, and much better than the previous 0.5 and 0.5.1, and why you should update right now if you haven't. All right, so that's pretty much it. If you like this video, please make sure to hit the like button down below, the subscribe button down below, and then hit the little bell icon to get notified whenever I post a new video. So that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys in a few days as usual. Bye bye.